Well, here we are. We are live, Mr. Rayo, on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. So if I move over this way, wait, let's see, maybe it's easy if I go over this way. You can see the whole background there. So
Yeah.
let's all let's all do a collective ooh. Ah,
Ooh. I
oh,
sound like
yes.
Merv Griffin. Ooh,
Ooh,
well, ooh.
well. Well, I'm
I like that.
anticipating.
Joe and Joe in the background. Oh boy,
Yeah. Now,
that's
the
amazing.
thing is, it's centered, and so am I. So it's I can't you can't see the other Joe. So just to be clear, there's Joe and Joe there. I tried
Yeah,
the other glow background too, so whichever one looks pretty cool. I thought this one was kind of nice.
yeah, it does. It does. Well,
All
welcome
right.
to Friday.
Yeah, it's a Friday night, and special hello to everybody that's on board tonight because I'm anticipating that. Well, most people are just out enjoying the really nice weather we had today. Blue sky, sunshine, very warm temperatures, relatively low humidity. So for Scott and Dennis Cassia, Christina Pedia, Johnny Quest, T. Snowy, Tyrone, Mrs. Rayo is on. She's
Yes.
she's she's bringing the audience numbers up. That's good. Gypsy two, Gypsy 2112, Tim Pendleton, Chuck Cardillo. I think I saw Chris Alley on board earlier. Johnny Quest, T Snowy. I think I got everybody. If I just by chance missed saying hello, David Schwartz. Can't forget David there. So I think I got everyone. Tyrone is new, so he was one of the first on the chat. At least new to me because I guess maybe it's the first time I noticed. And Lord Kate, Jeffrey Mara. So it's a nice crowd tonight. And Bill Uber's on. Hello, hello. Okay, so we did all the hellos.
I just noticed Richard Mecklow is on.
Uh
He is
huh.
my brother. He is my brother-in-law.
Oh, very
And,
good. So
and
you're
so
getting the family to boost the numbers. What's our ratings tonight?
yeah.
Oh, okay. We're
Uh,
not too shabby for a Friday
Richard,
night.
if you're watching, I just got a brand new machine, a brand new PC, a Windows 10, and I'm trying to figure out a way to get back. He had given me a few years ago an anti-spyware program,
Right.
and it didn't carry over with the Carbonite. And so my wife says, "Oh, you can do without it because you've got this program and that program. You've got malware bytes and this and that. But I want that program back." And she said, "Why you make such a big deal out of this?" But now I was going to contact my brother-in-law and ask him. But now that he's online, he can figure it out, for me or
I'm
whatever.
sure he
So
could. So we're on our way to a hot and humid weekend. We are on our way to a severe weather risk that the Storm Prediction Center expanded.
I
Uh,
missed I missed Joe by this much, getting hit by a drown pour today. We
really?
my
Today?
my wife and I and my daughter Maria, we went to the Mid Hudson Walkway. There was an old cantilever bridge which was used for a railroad crossing over the Hudson that they have now converted into a pedestrian walkway.
Okay.
And we decided, it's a lovely afternoon or whatever, a lot of big billowing clouds. So we went out on the walkway and we just took a walk across the Hudson River. However, as we were having our little lunch in the shade after we had completed our walk, all of a sudden we started hearing these rumbles of thunder.
No
And
kidding.
my daughter whips out her phone. Joe, isn't it amazing that you can actually see radar on an iPhone or a smartphone?
I know. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, who would have thought? I mean, like, it sure beats what I used to do 40 years ago when I used to put little X's on a piece of plexiglass
Yep. Yep.
over the radar. But he said, "Dad, look at this," and there was this it was a small but concentrated heavy cell which was passing literally just off to our north. And in fact, you could actually see the rain if you look north. I took a picture and put it on my Facebook page. A very concentrated area of heavy rain was falling, and it just missed us by that much. So it was that kind of a day, and I'm sure a lot of us are going to be going through quite a bit of that tomorrow with the threat of severe weather.
Well, let's bring up SPC's latest forecast. So they upgraded this morning. They really didn't change it today. I didn't expect that they would. You might see them do a little bit of massaging tomorrow. Maybe they add an enhanced risk area. Maybe not. Um, I'm not, a couple of things today that I noticed. Of one thing, it looked like the timing. I don't know what you're thinking about this, but it looked like the timing is a little faster, and the storms are in by at least reaching the coast by 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't
Right.
know. It doesn't quite look the same as it did over the last couple of days with this sort of strung out east-west front that was going to come down. Well, what did you think of that today?
Well, as I said yesterday, it looked to me like we were going to have maybe two possible shots. The first shot in the morning, just a few regular showers, and then yeah, along about mid or late afternoon, we might be looking at a more prolific bout of thunderstorm activity.
Right.
And anything that we get in the morning might actually uh, take away from what we might see during the afternoon in terms of potency. Now, the new GFS, which I'm just looking at right now.
And I have the new NAM up, which has no showers anywhere close tomorrow morning. But go
Right.
ahead. Go ahead.
But I mean, the GFS seems to be concentrating a lot of the activity, mostly to the north, just outside of the area that's been blocked out by SPC for slight chance of severe, up through, let's say, Binghamton and Albany and points north. That seems to be where the heaviest cells are, at least according to the 18Z GFS for early afternoon tomorrow.
Well, that's
And then,
also the NAM. This NAM's the same thing. It's got this big, heavy area up in the Catskills and points north. I mean, it's got some stuff in Northeast PA and in northern New Jersey. But early tomorrow morning and then around daybreak, there's no sign of this. The stuff that was supposed to be going into New England as a warm front. I don't know. I'm a little confused to tell you the truth as
yeah,
to. I mean, is this showing that the warm front actually takes longer to get through here?
I don't know. It seems like the bout of heavy weather, showery and thundery weather, is coming our way from a little wave of low pressure
Right.
that's across central and southern New York State. And the main area, the main zone, supposedly is going through the Great Lakes and up into Canada. But this little wave, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like a bump on the warm front that's
Well,
we're
I'm looking. I just put up the 2 meter. I'm sorry, the 2 meter dew points tomorrow morning, which are in the low 60s, and they actually don't really get robust until midday to early afternoon, and then they start to climb to the upper 60s to around 70. I mean, you've got a south wind here. You've got south winds over New Jersey, Long Island, southern New England, right into 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They actually go south southeast because of that low center. I wonder. I don't know. And I'm getting a little confused here with regards to how this is all going to play out tomorrow with respect to severe weather.
well, the 700 millimeter FGen, and this is again 18Z, the NAM 12 kilometer. They have not one but two zones.
Let
The
me pull
first
up
zone
the.
kind
Let me get the NAM 3 up.
of the first zone kind of moves through around 15Z, and then they have a second zone that moves on through around 19 or 20Z. And by 20Z, you've got these two solid areas of FGen, one or Omega, if you will.
Right there's the warm front. Okay, so basically that's the warm front at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
Okay, and
And then
then
as you move
right.
along to like 19 or 20Z, which is about
It,
4
it
o'clock in the
it's like
afternoon.
this little narrow stick in the late afternoon that forms over northern New Jersey, Hudson Valley. Big concentration up in Massachusetts and southern Vermont and New Hampshire. Some cells that extend down to us. I don't know.
Right.
Now, I'm looking at this and just wondering, you know, are we going to wind up not getting much out of this? I don't know. And of course, I want to also just throw this caveat in because anytime we deal with thunderstorms with in situations like this, the short range models are not the most reliable models in the world in these sorts of things. You could pull all of them up, and every one of them will have a different look to it.
Right.
I'm pulling up the HRRR just to see what that had.
Right. In fact, I'm doing that myself right now.
Yeah, see now the
Um,
HRRR. Okay, so the HRRR, the warm frontal stuff moves through around 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning and just weakens. But it's much more robust, showing more cells late in the afternoon and evening. This makes a little more sense to me. This HRRR. Look at the pull up the 18Z HRRR because that goes out through tomorrow evening.
Right, I'm doing that right now, and
You see
and
how
all of you and all of you could do the same thing. Watch it.
follow along. You can play at home. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, you could see around 20Z or 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. You don't have anything organized in terms of a squall line, but you do have some, almost like blotchy, almost like measles breaking out. And where the red zones are, of course, that's where the heavy duty stuff is. But they're kind of like spotty and scattered all over the tri-state area. This is in contrast to a couple of days ago, Joe, when we were talking about how the GFS showed this well-defined, looked like a well-defined squall line moving in and through, but now that's gone.
I am looking at 15Z, which is 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Dew points in Connecticut and the Hudson Valley are still in the low 50s, and they're still in the 50s over me. And then they rapidly rise
Right.
in the next 4 or 5 hours that follow, so that by late afternoon in Bridgeport, I mean the dew point goes from at 15Z at Bridgeport, the dew point is 54. And at 20Z in 5 hours, it's at 6. Actually, at 21Z at 5 o'clock, it's at 70. So I think that I think there's a warm front there.
Yeah, I
I
think so.
think. You think? I mean, that's a really good, solid push of that dew point. If you look at the of the moist air, if you look at the darker brown shadings across Pennsylvania, and you just watch it how it loops in, it's almost like a fist that punches right through. So I just the HRRR certainly would be supportive of actually some rather well developed cells in that mix.
Well, if you want to know whether or not we're going to get hit with rain or showery weather, just we all have to look to my wife, because before, as I was coming downstairs here to do the show, she told me she was going to go out and she was going to fill up the wheelbarrow with a kind of a mixture of grass seed and fertilizer, and she said, I want to get this down before it rains tomorrow. And I said, you get all that stuff down, that's a guarantee that we're not getting the rain that you desperately want
Did
for the
she
for the lawn.
did she do this before or after she slopped the hogs?
Watch it, Joe. She'll be down here in
Oh,
a
I,
second.
I understand. I understand. One does not want to be rendered from a rooster to a hen in one swap.
Yes.
All right. So the other thing is, interestingly enough, that SPC did is, oops, let me go back to SPC. But on Sunday,
Yeah.
they actually have a rather large area of marginal risk from North Carolina back to Ohio, and then all going all the way up into southern Maine. By the way, we should mention, Scott Briller mentioned this to me and posted it on the chat board. This was the 11th consecutive day for Caribou, Maine, getting to 90 degrees.
Are you? That's
11 days
wild.
in a row. Can you imagine
That's
that?
wild.
And I was down in Atlanta, where the first 90-degree day of the month of June, which of the summer, which usually the first 90 is like late May, early June, around June 1st, is the mean first day. It was what was the date? So it would be last Saturday was the 20th. So Saturday was the first day that they had 90 degrees for a high.
Now, is that a record for them? 11
You
consecutive?
mean a record late 90-degrea high? I don't
No,
know. I
no, no,
don't
no.
know.
I'm talking about in Caribou.
Oh, for
11.
Caribou, that I don't know either if it was a record or not. I mean, the 11 days in a row. If it's not a record, it's got to be darn close.
That's incredible.
But we've
What did we
got
say for New York? We just said for New York, the record was what? 12 for the New York City
right for
area?
12.
That's amazing.
Well, look, it's a strange year. All sorts of weird things are happening. So I guess, I, well, for Caribou to go 11 days in a row, and if tomorrow makes it 12, I didn't look to see what their forecast high is going to be. Why not? I mean, really, why not? And again, Sunday, a marginal risk, although I didn't see anything with regards to another day where it might be more on the lines of scattered stuff and maybe some isolated cells wind up developing into severe, because it is going to be very warm to borderline hot, and it is going to still be humid on Sunday.
Yes, it will. In fact, I think Sunday will probably be the warmer or hotter of the 2 weekend days. Only because tomorrow again we're going to have the cloud cover and also the risk. I'm just saying it's going to be an ongoing risk of showers and storms, but the nasty storms may hold off until later in the day. As far as Sunday is concerned, some sun, some clouds, and maybe a scattering of shower and storm activity. That was a surprise to me, though, Joe, that they put us not in a general area of showers and storms, but actually put a marginal
Yeah, I was a
risk.
little surprised at that too. I just switched over real quick to the Atlantic satellite because just to get a status on this dust situation. Of course, the first area now seems to be moving through the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. There's a little bit of a break, and then you've got this second mass now that is approaching the the Leeward Islands and the windwards and moving westward. So that's the next batch of dust. And I think there might even be another batch of dust getting ready to move off the African coast. Still watching, we want to look for over time is the all that convection that you see off the African coast to South America. It's still too far south for development, but gradually as we go through the month of July, that area should migrate northward to about 10 or around 10 degrees north. You're gonna want to see that the base of the clouds, or at least the clouds centered over that red line that I just drew. And there are some odd years where that intertropical convergence zone shifts even way up for even further north, and that's usually in years that are going to be active. So we want to, you're going to wait. We're going to wait to see those tropical waves start moving inside those two red lines, and of course, if we get rid of the dust, then you'll probably you'll stand a better chance of development. But in the meantime, with all the dust in the Caribbean, you can see that you get these convective blowups that really don't amount to much. So the tropics are going to be shut off until we can clear up this dust issue.
Right.
I could see a couple of little showers there in the Valley Hudson this evening. There's a couple of little dots. Uh,
Yeah, well,
near,
one of those dots, I tell you, they don't look all that much on radar, especially from a wide view. But one of those dots, again, came very close to passing over me when I was on that walkway this afternoon. And I'm glad I went because you could see it wasn't vertigo. I mean, you could see just a solid rain area, almost like a dark column.
mhm.
I said, boy, it must be really coming down really hard, up just off to our north. And we heard the rumbles of thunder or whatever, but that's typical. That's your typical sultry pop up mid-afternoon shower threat, and that's exactly what parts of the Hudson Valley saw today.
Some hefty storms around the Great Lakes tonight in Wisconsin, northern Illinois, over Chicago. Also, some strong storms in parts of Ohio moving southeast. Gulf states seeing some scattered activity, just a few dots over Florida. A bit of a line there moving northward or northeastward, northeastward in southern Alabama. Seeing some showers along the Texas coast. And as we go west, a little bit of action right now in Colorado, south of Denver. Looks like a pretty hefty thunderstorm there. And also north of Denver, looking at some strong storms even extending into southeast Wyoming and in parts of Utah and southern Nevada, seeing some action. The west coast is pretty quiet. Rainfall is needed, Mr. Rayo, and WPC actually now has us over the next 7 days getting between an inch and a half of rain. Now, how much of that is from those thunderstorms tomorrow? How much of that is from any isolated stuff on Sunday? I really didn't see a whole lot to worry about for this coming week. Uh, we're still kind of in that mode that we've been describing the last few days. Big rains up in the northern plains into central Canada, big rains up into the northern Rockies, into southwest Canada, and the southwest is pretty dry. The southeast, varying amounts, heavy in the Tennessee Valley, lower Ohio Valley, not too shabby down in Florida, either up to an inch or an inch and a half over the next 7 days.
Right,
We have a
right.
drought to alleviate. Well, dry conditions to alleviate anyway.
Oh, dry, yeah, yeah. And again, what we really need is just a couple of consecutive days of rain, or at least a day of a gentle soaking rain. And what we may see, well, what we almost saw in parts of the Hudson Valley today, and what we'll have a shot at tomorrow, those heavy downpours or drownpours, 15 or 20 minutes. That's nice, but the ground is just so very dry that a lot of that is just going to bounce right off the ground or just run off very, very quickly, like almost like hitting concrete, not being able to soak right into the ground, which is where it really is needed.
All right, I'm trying to load the GFS up here. It's not really being overly cooperative at the moment. So let's see. We're trying to figure out why. Okay, now it's working. And we'll get an upper air up here. And let's widen it out to the full US.
Chuck Cardillo writes, Joe Chiaffi, if it were to rain where the dust is, would that rain come down dirty? Would Yeah, dirty.
Bad boy, Chuck. I mean, I guess the rain would wash some of that dust down. I'm trying to recall instances where we had, like times when we had to deal with, say, there was a couple of instances where we had volcanic ash in the air. And I'm trying to remember whether in any of those instances whether we had rain or not. But I imagine if it did, that some of that would probably come down, get washed down to the ground. I can't see why it wouldn't.
It's like the old George Carlin bit where he says, we didn't expect a mud. He's doing Al Sleet, the hippy dippy weatherman. No, no one expected a mud storm, man. What happened was a rainstorm came up from the south and a dust storm came in from the west, and bam, mud.
Oh, good Lord.
Mud showers will taper off tonight, becoming a fine mud drizzle. And if temperatures dip below freezing, we'll have mud flurries tomorrow.
Great. All right, so we're looking at the upper air here with this another powerhouse, big deep trough. Look at that. 5 contours cut off into 6 cut off into Idaho. Uh, a cutoff like that a month ago would have produced a pretty sizable snowfall. But we have our own little cutoff here in New England, and that is going to keep things from getting hot this week. It's also going to keep things a little. It's going to keep us weather folks on our toes, I think, this week regarding how much, if any, cloud cover and how much, if any, instability showers we wind up getting with this upper low that's sitting in the northeast. One thing for sure, the GFS was wrong earlier this week, or earlier in the week, when it was trying to elongate this down into the Gulf states. And then eventually it just weakens and pulls out off the New England coast to come 4th of July weekend, although it cuts off southeast of Cape Cod, and this ridge to the west is just kind of kept at bay. So we're sort of on the edge here. But we've got this northwest flow going into next week, and the ridge across the south starts to strengthen and spread out east-west. So maybe at some point we're going to get into a little bit of heat here. I don't know how it's, whether it's lasting, because that northern part of that jet stream, folks, you can see it right here. It's still pretty busy. Okay, so as long as we're in that flow, it means that cold fronts can come through, and some drier air masses can come in from time to time and keep things reasonable. And I'm all for keeping things reasonable.
Yes, I am too. That flow looks like it'll turn just enough into the northwest by late Sunday or Sunday night, so that maybe, just maybe, we'll have more tolerable dew points and humidities to kick off the week on Monday.
We'll get
That
the humidity down.
that would be welcome. Yeah.
So again, here's the GFS for tomorrow, which is again slightly different look than what the HRRR has, which the HRRR to me and Joe both makes more sense. And then of course on Sunday, you still have lingering low pressure. That upper low starts to settle in New England, so that's going to be rotating around. It triggers off. You see some scattered storms there Sunday afternoon into the evening. Also a little bit of scattered activity down from West Virginia into Tennessee. Of course, in the west with that deep upper trough, you've got an 88 low, a 988 low in Utah, Joe, 985 low by Sunday evening, with all sorts of rain up into and heavy rain, Wyoming, northwest Wyoming into Montana, and there's even some blue snow there in Idaho Sunday night into Monday morning. Look at that. And why wouldn't there be if you were going to have a six contour cutoff low, a powerhouse like that, very cold air in the upper atmosphere? Those elevations might actually wind up seeing some snow out of this, believe it or not. Wouldn't shock me. But for us here in the east, you got this higher pressures up in eastern Canada. I don't know. Next week to me looks like it's going to be a bit more reasonable. I just think we may have to watch to see whether at some point you get these little scattered pop-ups because of where the upper low is. Maybe more in New England, but we're going to be close to the edge, so I just want to kind of keep an eye on that. I'm thinking in general, most of the time it should be fine. And then late in the week, there looks like there might be a bit more of an important cold front that comes on through here going into the 4th of July weekend, which right now, Joe, to me, does not look like a hot weekend. It doesn't look hot.
Right. As I said yesterday, if it weren't for the fact that that disturbance, that upper disturbance, takes form in the east here during the coming days ahead. Because a week ago, without that, it looked like we had, almost expanding like a balloon, a big ridge of high pressure, and that next week looked like it was going to be a very hot week. Now it doesn't look like that's going to be the case at all, which
We
I'm
are
very happy for.
good. We're back full screen. Who hit super chat tonight?
That was Mr. Roman, Paul
Oh,
Roman,
Paul Roman. Thank you so much, Paul. Joe and I appreciate it greatly. Thank you so much.
to help us on our toes this weekend, Joe.
Yes, exactly. And I guess what we'll do tomorrow is I don't know what your schedule is tomorrow. Mine is
I'm
I
not
don't.
doing nothing.
Okay, so you
I'll
know
be
what?
looking. I'll be
We'll
looking outside at the
we'll
thunderstorm.
watch the radar, and when it looks like it might start to get busy, we'll try and time out a live show sometime in the afternoon. How does that work for you?
Sure.
Okay, so everybody at home, just kind of pay attention to your notifications. Patreon members, I'll put a post up there like I always do. If you're on Discord, I'll put the link up there to once we have it figured out. It'll be on. It may wind up being on the fly, so just bear that in mind. So just kind of let's get uh, Briller Jeopardy up here.
Scott sent me something, but it was, I think, the only thing I got from him today
He says
was
it's not a record, by the way, the 11 in a row for Caribou.
really, that's kind of interesting. The thing I got from him today was just a 3 to 4 week experimental prog from the Climate Prediction Center, which has us in above normal temperatures, probably right through the end of July. In fact, that's what they've been saying all through the month of July is above normal temperature conditions and near or even, I think, below normal precipitation. So it looks like very warm and maybe a bit on the dry side for us.
Works for me. Uh, I just don't want, I just don't want 95 day in, day out with high humidity.
Right.
I'm not good with that anymore.
I'm not good with it either.
So Johnny Quest asks the question. Then we'll go to Briller Jeopardy. Is it true that a hurricane in the Atlantic has bigger waves and a smaller storm surge, while a hurricane in the Gulf has smaller waves and a bigger storm surge? I would say, in general, there's probably some truth to this because in the Gulf of Mexico, you're basically, it's trapped. It's you got a hurricane pushing up, depending on where it's coming from, and if it's pushing up, say, from the Northwest Caribbean and going straight up.
right.
Say if it's heading for that bend in Florida, and then let's throw in a full moon. Yeah, I mean you're really pushing all that water into one spot, and the Gulf actually near the coast is quite shallow for quite a ways. Whereas in the Atlantic, it's a little different. The only exception I would take to that is actually maybe for where we are, because of the right angle uh, of New Jersey and Long Island, and Sandy might be an instance where you had the system coming in from the wrong direction, from the quote unquote from the southeast, and that was that would have been more that would have been probably that would have been one where you would have had where we had big storm surge and big waves. So there are always exceptions to every weather rule, and if there isn't an exception, just give it time and you'll create one because that's just how it works.
David Scott wants to know about tomorrow the southerly wind. Would that result in a sea breeze that would result in storms avoiding the South Shore beaches, as in Atlantic Beach, which I grew up at? I had relatives, still do actually, in Atlantic Beach. But as a young boy, I go there, every summer, so I'm well aware of Atlantic Beach. Southerly winds, that might
Well,
knock.
I mean, those are usually thunderstorm killers, but if they're coming in from the northwest, And if you're talking about the warm front goes by, and those dew points get punched up into the upper 60s and low 70s, and that wind can bend more southwest or west southwest, then I think those storms will hold together. There's the other thing to consider in this too is you do have, if you look at the NAMS 500 and the 700, there is a well-defined little shortwave with this that's moving along, that's carrying these storms.
Right.
So you want to pay attention to that, because those situations with strong short waves like that can compensate to a large extent, what's going on with the marine layer. So I'd be cautious about writing it off just strictly on the south wind, because of the setup that we have tomorrow. And this is the sort of thing that we'll look at tomorrow afternoon when we look at the obs and we'll look at what's going on. That we'll be able to make that final determination about whether these storms are going to survive for Long Island. So, are you ready for tonight's little adventure?
Yes, I found my question too. So
Okay, so the numbers to think about tonight are 5 and 4. All right, and there have been 5 presidents whose last names begin with the letter T, and 4 presidents that begin with whose last names begin with the letter H. Okay, so you have 30 seconds to name all 9 presidents.
oh God.
Go.
Well, how about with the one with the H? We've had William Henry Harrison,
Right.
Warren G. Harding. Um, we have another Harrison, right? The one that only
Two
lasted.
Harrisons.
Yeah.
Two
Um,
Harrisons.
right. Two Harrisons, Harding, and I'm trying to think. Um, I was going to say Harry Truman, but that's the first name, not the last name.
Right. And
Uh,
he's in the other group.
the T, you're right. With the T one, that's Truman and Taft and I probably would if I go right down the list in my mind, but that would take much too long. Uh, Trying to think of the early 20th century
Okay,
people.
let's go with the H's first. I'll give you a hint for one of them. Okay.
Okay,
All right. Um, a hint for one of them would be, uh, it. You might have it in your house, as a you something you use to clean in your house.
something that I would use to clean in my house.
Right.
That would be the H in the
Yeah.
H
There's
category.
nothing like this when digging up dirt. When digging up dirt, sucking up dirt would probably be better.
Now you've totally confused the issue for me.
All right. It's like the vacuum cleaner.
It's like the vacuum cleaner.
The
What could
the brand of vacuum cleaner.
oh, Hoover, right?
Right.
Right. Okay.
Right. One was a vacuum cleaner, and the other one was a cross-dresser who worked for the FBI. Okay. And you left, and one other one. Um, hmm. I don't know how to give a hint. Actually, I can. I do know how to give a hint. Okay, for this, there is a Catholic school in the Bronx that is named has this name.
Really? Oh dear. You didn't go to that Catholic school,
I
did
went to
you?
the other Cardinal. There were two.
Oh,
There's two Cardinal
oh,
Catholic
Hayes,
schools.
Rutherford B. Hayes.
Hayes. Okay, so we cleaned that up. Now
Okay.
let's finish the T's.
All right. So we had Truman and
Mm-hmm.
Taft
Mm-hmm.
and Tortellini. No.
Right.
Ah, how many were we looking for with
The
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 T?
current resider.
Oh, of course, Mr.
Oh,
Trump.
right. Okay. So you've got Truman. What did you say? Truman,
Taft.
Taft, Trump. There's two more.
There's two
And
more.
both of these could be someone's first name, by the way.
Hmm.
These two last names could also be first names.
All right.
One of them might also be someone that you would go to fix your suit?
Zachary Taylor.
Taylor. Okay.
And who else? One more.
Mm-hmm.
He said the
All right.
1920s.
What would you call someone who puts down little square things on the floor of your bathroom?
The
What
little square
what
thing.
could you call someone who puts those, the square things on your floor that you walk on in a bathroom?
Well, tile, right?
Okay, right. So if someone puts down tile, you might want to call a tile
A Tyler.
a tiler. Yes,
Okay. These 19th century presidents are the ones that get you.
exactly. So now where's mine?
Where's yours? For Friday, category 8-letter words that begin with L. This city in Florida averages more thunderstorm days than any other city in America.
And it starts with an L.
It's eight, yes, 8-letter word that begins with L.
Lakeland.
You got it.
All right.
And what was the first capital of New Hampshire?
The first capital of New Hampshire?
Right. I didn't even know there was a first
I didn't
capital.
either. As a matter of fact, actually, in my back of my mind, I remember when the last time I was up in New Hampshire, I remember driving through, what was it? Drove through someone's a town, and it said it was the first capital.
I'll give you a hint. In computers, the first 3 letters of this place is sometimes seen in computer lingo. Um,
In computer lingo, the first three letters, like DOS.
well, that's actually that's maybe a silly way to
Well,
try to.
Concord is the capital, correct?
Right. Is it, or is it
Or
Manchester?
is it Manchester? Is it maybe it's Manchester. I've been to both. So it was Concord the first capital.
That's not the answer.
Well, look, I'm not going to get it. So go ahead and reveal it.
Well, yeah, you heard of an exe file or
Oh
in
yeah, right.
all right. So the name of this place is, I hope I pronounced this correctly, uh, Exeter, Exeter, or Exeter,
Exter.
Exeter.
Exeter. Yeah, that wasn't the town I was in. I didn't even know that was their first capital.
I didn't
But you
know
know
that.
what? New Hampshire is such a paradise that they're allowed to they can do whatever they want as far as I'm concerned. You
Well,
know,
I know
I,
you want to
I,
retire and
I love New Hampshire. It's a beautiful state.
Go to Lake Winnipesaukee, right?
Yes, yes. All right, so we'll call it a night.
I guess we will until maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow, definitely Sunday. Okay.
And to all of you out there, stay safe. Wear those masks.
Yes.
I went to the as I mentioned at the top of the show. I went to the walkway, the Hudson Valley Mid Hudson Valley walkway. I'm happy to say that most of the people who were there were also wearing masks.
You know, just real quick, I don't want to get into a big rant about this. It is amazing to me. It is really amazing to me. It's such an easy thing to do. I mean, I know that's a pain in the neck. I go out walking every day. There's nobody around. I walk local streets in the neighborhood. If I pass one or two people over the course of 6 or 7 miles, that's a lot. And then what happens is one of us gets on one side of the street and the other one gets on the other. So I don't wear a mask when I'm walking, but when if I go to the supermarket, if I go to the post office, I take it with me. I put it on when I go, to go in the store. I take it off when I get in the car. And by the way, this has been kind of bugging me, but in a different sort of way, because a lot of people have been criticizing people who are wearing masks while they're driving. Okay,
Right.
and here's the thing. And I've done it myself, where if I've gone to the supermarket and I'm making several stops to do things, um, sometimes I forget I even have it on. So I'll get in the car and I'll start driving, and then I'll realize after a couple of minutes that, I still have my mask on. Let me take it off. Sometimes you just forget. So I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. Plus, you don't know the people that are wearing them all the time. Maybe they're immunocompromised. Maybe it makes them feel a little bit more secure. I don't, you know, I think you should. Some people are getting very nasty with making fun of people who are wearing masks while they're driving. Try to give them the benefit of the doubt and think that maybe they are making several stops that just don't want to be. It's just easier to leave it on rather than take it on and off all the time. That's all I want to say about that. Just try to be a little. It's a time where all of us are kind of our nerves are a little bit frayed and maybe our tempers are a little bit easier to set off. So maybe it's a good idea to just sort of take a deep breath. All I'm saying is just try to be a little bit kind to those around you. Uh, it'll just make things a little. To me, it just makes things a lot easier. That's all.
Yeah.
Not it's not a yelling rant.
Yes. I understand.
You know.
I understand. It's kind of crazy out there at times, but let's all calm down. It's a weekend coming up. Last weekend of June.
Yep.
Soon
Half the year is over.
soon the leaves will be falling, and then we'll be getting ready for the first winter storm watch of the season. So
By the way, we should mention. I guess let's prep the audience now. I don't know. Have you been reading? They're gonna get rid of the winter weather advisory.
right.
They're gonna get rid of all advisories, which honestly, I think it's a good idea. I thought about it. I think it's a good idea. It really got ridiculous with some of the advisories that they were putting up, almost down to like a mist advisory, for God's sake, and it just seemed to make things a little bit um, too crazy. Reserve it for the watch and the warning when it has much more meaning, and the rest of it, we should all be grown up enough to be able to handle it.
Well, back in 2013 in the Atlanta area, they issued a winter storm watch, took it down, and replaced it with a winter weather advisory. After in the aftermath, this was in the what ended up happening was there was freezing rain causing a glaze, which caused everybody to slip off and slide
Right.
off the road. People around in the car for like 6 and 8 hours. And the aftermath, when they asked people, they said, "Well, when you changed it from a winter storm watch to an advisory, I thought you downplayed it, or you know."
Yeah. So exactly.
Um,
Um, we. I just think it creates unnecessary. We're all adults. We should be able to handle a few inches of snow without being given an advisory about the snow. That's sort of how I feel about it.
right, right,
And down south, where the criteria for a winter storm warning in Atlanta is a lot lower than the criteria for a winter storm warning up here. So yeah, all it for areas that don't see those things too often, it can be very confusing if they start playing around with the advisory versus the warning. So this will make, and they're going to have short-term forecast statements and other things to replace the advisory part, which I think makes sense. So bear that in mind, folks. Start remembering that now, so that come the winter time, you're not asking how come there's no winter weather advisory, because
right,
they may get rid of it.
right.
Okay. All right. Have a great night, Joe. Everybody, have a great night. Thanks for being here, and we will see you sometime tomorrow and Sunday at 11 o'clock Eastern time.